Welcome back. It's new knife day again, and everybody knows that new knife days are the best days. So I've got another Wee knife. This is my second Wee knife that I've ever purchased, and it's an Isham design. So let's get weird. His designs are always super funky, very unique, and this one is no exception. This is the Knives Aeterna. Look at that, dude. Awesome carbon fiber. This is actually an integral knife. The titanium here is all just one piece. All the anodized titanium that you see here is all one piece with carbon fiber inlays, which I guess there was a little bit of debate whether or not this is actually an integral knife, because these inlays here, they actually kind of take up a good amount of the handle. They're not just like, little strips of carbon fiber set into titanium. They're more, I guess, part of the handle than just decoration. But I would still consider this an integral knife because there's just one screw keeping in the pivot and everything, and all of this, like these screws right back here, are just for the carbon fiber. So overall, super weird knife, at least for me anyways, and that's why I buy knives these days, is just either blade steel that I don't have as a sharpener, or just general weirdness, and this one is generally pretty weird. Let's check out the blade. Flipper. Look at that, dude. I have had this apart, and I have sharpened it, and I did have a video of both of those things, but I ran out of storage on my phone, and the video stopped while I was halfway through, and blah, 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 and I just didn't feel like going back and redoing all that, so this is what you get. Anyways, this blade is super cool. I really like the style of this blade. It's just just the overall style of it. So just looking at it at first on pictures online, and when I first had it in hand, I thought that the spine of the blade was flat, and I thought that the edge of the blade was perfectly flat, like true Wharncliffe style, right? But actually, the spine has a very gentle taper from heel towards the tip, and the edge actually, it's hard to tell here, but it actually really is, it's all belly. Just very, very, very gentle belly. So, and it comes up here to this weird little, I guess you could technically call that a reverse tanto, but that might be the tiniest bit of tanto that I've ever seen. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting blade shape. And you kind of don't have, as I poke that, there's definitely a sharp little tip there, but it's not a very pointy tip. So interesting, but typical Isham design language. You got big holes in everything, and a deep cut right up here into the handle for to hold on to right there. And also it's kind of got like the arched back, and then dips down, and then it's actually got a little bit of a sway back. So that's all unique, I think, and it's new to me. It's unique to my knife collection anyways, so this is a very, very interesting knife. It's got really nice materials. So we're looking at M390 up here, titanium, carbon fiber. Actually, one thing that's always I find very cool is that all the screws, the pivot screw included, are all titanium. So you got to be very careful when you take apart knives that have just titanium hardware. It's very soft, so don't go wrenching on them if you got Loctite or whatever on there, because you can, I don't know if that'll show. You can strip them out, but you can see down in there, I don't know if the light's going to work with them. There we go. You can see that the titanium runs all the way from one end of the handle to the other. So yeah, I would consider this an integral knife. Overall, I think it's really, really cool. As far as opening goes, well, here we'll watch I've got some little, it's kind of drop shutty a little bit. You got to do a couple little gentle shakes to it. I did put some new oil in there, and so that helped it out a little bit. It's a little bit smoother. But yeah, the flipper on this thing is odd. So you can see right there, this flipper is not sticking out to the side, and it's not a front flipper. It's just kind of, it's a little bit different, and it took me a little bit to get used to actually flipping it. So usually when I flip a knife like this dude over here, I kind of use the pad of my finger and light switch it, right? This one, if you use the pad of your finger and light switch it, that's the result. We'll go ahead and close it. So it took me a little while to get used to it, but basically you have to take, anyways for me, I take the very tip of my finger and just try to stroke it back up and avoid hitting the bolster. Then you can get your action there. Now, I have been messing with it, of course, like we all do. And I don't know if I'll be able to do it on camera, probably not, but there we go, look at that. You can middle finger flick it. Sometimes, whoa, easy now. It seems super dangerous to me just because I've got big, stupid hands, and this is a little bit too small for me. Oh, and the detent is more tuned for the flipper than flicking with your thumb. So you can do it, definitely. And then another thing too, I'm terrible at this as well. Bam, you can treat it like a front flipper. So it's very interesting. So the fidget factor is there. You got basically 3 different ways to open it, even though 2 of them seem super risky to me. Like, that I've messed that up more times than I care to admit. But yeah, so it can be a little bit dangerous, but you know what? I kind of like my knives to be a little bit dangerous. I'm gonna smudge on there. We'll get that off. But anyway, so opening, it does have a good action on it once you figure out how to actually deploy the knife. So it's not, you know, just like I said, it's not your standard just bloop, you know, no questions asked flip. But once you get the hang of it, it's really not too bad. Now, as far as fit and finish on this thing goes, I'm actually really impressed with it. So, okay, I'll admit that for quite a while, you know, when Knives and then Civivi and some of these other, you know, full-on, you know, basically Chinese brands came out, I really was not interested in them. And I kind of had the mindset, you know, basically I was just all about the stars and bars, you know, like I wanted my knives made in America by American companies, or I guess Spyderco's an American company, but you know, I do own a Seki City and a Taichung Spyderco, so you know, a couple of them actually. So, but I don't know. Anyways, I was kind of like towards I was like, you know what? I'm going to support American companies, and if I can, American companies that produce right here in America. So I kind of withheld from purchasing Knives, but these 2 right here are 2 of my most recent purchases. This one obviously is New Knife Day, but this one here is the Sear. This is the first knife that I bought, and I was like, you know what, that's pretty cool. So I just wanted to try out a new brand because there's so many knives out there. And when I bought that, I was really, really impressed with the fit and finish, the action, just how everything was done. And this is no exception. And I would say that this is even better than that. And just because how weird it actually is. So as you run your finger across between the inlays and the titanium right here, I mean, it's basically seamless. You really can't feel it. There is you can see the slight gap in between the 2 carbon fiber pieces right here. That's probably the biggest gap that's on this knife, is right there. You can kind of feel that one. But right up in here, and just how they did it around the collar, it just seems very, very, very nice. Here you can see straight down into the business section of it right there. You can kind of see the bearings in there. One thing too about the blade, the stop pin is pressed into the blade itself, and it rotates up into the pockets on the bolsters right there. So there's no internal stop pin that's actually mounted on the blade, which is interesting. And this is caged ball bearings as well. Ceramic, I believe. I'm not sure, but I think. So overall, I think it's very well executed. The blade itself, excuse me, there's some chamfering all around the edges here. You can kind of see in the reflection there, you can see the chamfer all the way down, and it tapers down to next to nothing. But even this little mini reverse tanto section is chamfered around the edge. And here in the hole of the blade, that's all chamfered all the way around. And it's really, really nice. I like the angular grind that comes up here. It kind of follows this line, comes up like that. That's very well integrated. The finish on the blade, it's more of a matte finish. You can see in the reflectivity there, or lack thereof, I guess. You can kind of see the difference here. Very, very cool. But there's no grind lines on it. So it's all just, I don't know if you, I'm terrible at knowing which finishes what. I don't know if it's bead blasted or if it's, a tumbled stone wash kind of thing. I'm not really sure, but it's definitely got kind of a sheen to it with a big fingerprint on it. We'll fix that real quick. Try to. So fit and finish is really, really nice. I'm very, very happy with it. It just looks very nice. Oh, one thing too I want to bring up that I really like. So right here, I don't know if you can see it. Right there it says M390 on it. And that's the only blade marking on here. There's no branding. There's no, design. This is where Elijah puts his stuff. So the blade is very sterile. I mean, it's weird and it's funky, but it doesn't have a bunch of crap written all over it, which I appreciate very, very much. I hate, like ZTs. Well, this is a bad one. Well, okay, this knife has a story. You can see all the pitting and stuff on there. This knife has a story. But you can see it's like, let's just write a paragraph on the side of the blade, like, you're right. But this is perfectly, perfectly sterile, aside from right there, which you don't even hardly notice, unless you're looking for it. So very, very nicely done. The sharpening choil, you can kind of come up here if you want to as a finger choil, but you're kind of flirting with kissing that edge right there. So I tend to I'm just back here. I live back here. And that sway back is a little bit nice too as far as ergos. We're just jumping all around because I can't keep a solid train of thought. But ergos wise, my hands are a little big for it to be perfectly comfortable. My pinky's kind of back here like, what do I do? But that sway back is kind of nice. It really kind of just gets right in there, holds on tight. And it seems like a nice functional tool. That's watching a bunch of like interviews with Elijah, maybe not a bunch, but I've seen some interviews with him. He does prioritize ergos despite having weird designs like this. And I'd say that that's the case here. Is it my most ergonomic knife? No, absolutely not. It's not like my Man X2 or PM2 or something like that, right? But overall, it doesn't seem like, it's going to fall out of my hands or anything like that. As far as carryability goes, this clip, it's one, I think it's pretty attractive. It looks pretty good hanging out of your pocket. It's relatively deep, milled clip, so you got this much knife hanging out of your pocket, which is cool, so you get a little, I don't know, just a little bit of pop of that carbon fiber against the gold anodized here. But it's very slim. It's very light. That's another thing too. This knife, I don't know what the specs are. You can look it up. I'm not really one of the dudes that goes down the rabbit hole of specs, but it's very lightweight. There's just everything milled, carbon fiber, titanium. It's very, very lightweight. So it carries nice, and it does really kind of it's kind of got a weird shape. I guess I don't know. In the pocket, it looks like it would kind of want to curve out that way in your pocket, but I find that it just sits right back up there. So it carries very small, very light, and pretty comfortable. So overall, I'm pretty happy with it. It's a little bit weird. It's kind of, I bought this, I guess, maybe for, obviously I'm not going to go out and be, breaking down huge amounts of cardboard with it or anything like that. I mean, you could. It's got the, it's most definitely built well enough to do that. But that's not why I bought this. This one's more of just man jewelry and to kind of make me feel good. It's a cool knife. So sometimes when you got cool knives in your pocket, you just feel good about having a cool knife in your pocket. And that's what I think this is. So, maybe a date night knife, something like that. So, or maybe just to show off to my buddies, which I have all of about two people that actually give a shit about knives. So I could show it off to my two buddies, and they'll be like, ooh. But the rest of the people are like, oh, that's weird. But anyways, overall, been digging it so far. Pretty good action. It's not the most accessible. You have to work on getting the action to be able to deploy correctly. Just it's a little bit different, kind of funky, but that's the whole point, right? So I guess the last thing to talk about is the price. So this dude was $300. So that's a lot. And it's a lot for a Chinese-made knife, but I would say that maybe if this knife was made in the States by an American company, it'd probably be, north of $400. So, yes, it's expensive, but, what knife isn't really, well, there's a lot of inexpensive knives out there, but if you want to get weird and have premium materials and interesting designs like this, you're going to be spending some coins. So that's where this thing lives. So, I wasn't super mad about that, but I wanted it, so I went and got it. So overall, I dig it. This is New Knife Day. This is my second Wii, and it's a welcome addition to the collection. So that's about it. I'll see you next time. Thanks.